All right, a lovely good afternoon. It's a beautiful Monday. I want to believe that we all had a lovely weekend, but trust me, your weekend was not as great as mine was, because yesterday we spent almost the entire half day at Chainama Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is the reason why we are here, basically, because we are extending what happened at Chainama to Hope Live this afternoon. But even as we get into that, a lot is happening in the country. A lot happened. Well, over towards the weekend, speculations were that the president of the Republic of Zambia is unwell. We saw that in a number of blogs, but today we saw the president leaving the country, going to Tanzania to attend the 300 Mission Energy Summit that is being held in that particular country. And obviously that brings an end to speculations that were going round. I don't even know where it came from, but well, you understand that some people are very particular when they see certain things that were supposed to happen and they've not happened. The particular background to this is that the president was supposed to be on the Copper Belt to launch a certain activity, but instead delegated to the minister, which some people thought, well, that raises concern. Why would the president all of a sudden fail to be in the place he was scheduled to be? But now, 2-3 days later, that particular speculation has been put to bed. But also spanning to last week, this we didn't talk on this program. There's a lot following the unfamiliar outcome, really, of a woman that spent close to 2 years with the skeleton of her husband. Now, there were other speculations or images that emerged on social media of apparently a different woman who happens to be actually a prophetess, as they call her, somewhere in 6 miles, or is it 10 miles? And people have been following that to really put that to bed also. But the particular woman involved in the keeping of the skeleton of her late husband is formally charged with a case of manslaughter. Others expected it to be murder, but then it is a case of manslaughter. And we see how the proceedings will be, especially that now the case is headed to the courts of law. So there's been a lot of this and that happening in the country. But well, as Hope Live, we always try to bring you to speed with this that is happening. But today, we are discussing a life of service, celebrating 44 years of ministry. And your guess is as good as mine, because my guest on the program is Pastor George Mwansa. Now, we had a different name yesterday. He's here to confirm whether that also is his name. After 44 years of being in ministry, we got to hear the name yesterday. Yeah, that's the Chama name. So George Chama Mwansa, as it was indicated by Dr. Daniel Chunga, during a very, very special occasion that happened, organized by musicians, and it was broadcast live on Hope Channel Zambia. But just so people get to know that Hope Channel Zambia is available to offer live broadcast of your events, provided terms and conditions are met. Well, some people would be asking, why did you carry that program live? Yeah, I heard yesterday in the program some people, actually the MC, Paddy, saying, we are recording. No, we were not recording, but we were live on site from Chainama SDA Church. I wanted to say Njanji, because also in Njanji 2 weeks ago was a hive of activities, and Pastor George Mwansa was at the center of everything. Seemingly his leaving office as a pastor came with a lot of this and that, but we'll get to hear more about that. Pastor Mwansa, it's a privilege to host you on this program today. We've been hunting for your presence on the program. It has never happened, but today it has. Welcome to Hope Live.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you for having me.
Well, great. And I'll tell you something. It's not only me, but a number of people are saying, haven't you retired too early? Is it an early retirement?
it's not really an early retirement. So
Okay.
in the Adventist Church, there's a policy
Okay.
that if you reach 65 years,
Of
you
age.
are
65 years of age, not ministry.
65 years of age,
Okay.
then you can retire.
Okay.
Or 40 years of service. And because I started quite early, I managed to do 40. And after doing 40, here I am.
So you are not 65?
No, not 65.
I see. Because the argument was, Pastor Mwansa looks relatively younger than some pastors still in service. And so we were wondering whether it is because you've reached the age of 65.
No, it's basically
The service.
The service, yeah, 40
Right.
years of service.
40 years plus 4, because we are counting 44.
Yeah, plus 4 years.
Okay, great. And we will try and dig into really your life in ministry now that we know that it's not 65 years. Because personally, I was like, well, I should be closer to him. But we also had a number of people that have referred to you as their lecturer, both in Zambia and abroad. So you must have been around for a long time, hence the 40 years and above.
Yeah, like I said, it's basically because I started quite early.
Okay.
And so I went for training early and, then came back and started to serve. And, quite early as a district pastor in Kalulushi, the union called me and said, Mwansa, we would like you to go to Rusango. At that time, Rusango used to have a ministerial training school where they asked me to go and teach. So I was, relatively very young. So you find that quite a number of people, some of them are, big leaders in the system. I taught them. And, maybe some could have even been way older than me.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I had the necessary qualification, little qualification really, to do that type of work.
Okay, okay. Then maybe I'll start at this note that you have gone into retirement. By the way, we should congratulate you.
Thank you,
that
sir.
you have served this long as a minister of the gospel, both in administration as well as a preacher. But also what we saw yesterday speaks to your involvement in the music fraternity. I don't know if my director will allow us to play even one of your songs, especially those sung yesterday, but depending on what time is going to afford. But how does it feel to have completed this chapter of your life?
It feels great. There comes a time when you just want to be yourself, to relax and, just to enjoy life. And I feel that after doing 40 years plus of service, although in terms of time itself, I really do not, I can't even, say that time has really moved to the point where I could say, how shall I put it? It's I can't even describe how rapid in terms of time passing has been. And so when people say, you have done 44 years of service, I can't even...
You can't feel it.
I can't feel it. It's like,
It's just
just
passed
something
by.
that started yesterday.
Yeah.
I can't really feel it.
Given a chance, you still push your contribution to the ministry in full time.
I do have the strength to do that. I have the passion, but I do think that there are other things within the ministry that I would like to now, involve myself with.
Okay.
For example, I'm passionate about writing.
Right.
Even music itself. All these things that I have not been able to do to the extent that I wanted them done. I feel that this is a very, very good time for me to delve into those areas right now. So even though I still have the strength, the passion, but I also feel that, maybe,
Time has come.
yeah, time has come for me to concentrate on other areas.
Well, you
within the
should be
ministry.
able to ask us who are looking at you and who tell you that maybe it's not time. You've gone too early. But let's look back at your 44 years of service. What are some of the most memorable moments of experience that stand out to you when you served? Started young, very early, and here we are today. What stands out for you in the 44 years?
In the 44 years, something that comes to mind very quickly is how it all started.
Okay.
I think how God called me in the ministry is one facet within the ministry that stands out. I was relatively very young when, after completing grade 12 or Form 5 around at that time, I had a calling to ministry. And how it happened to this day is so vivid, so clear that, my good friend, Pardon once, who also became a minister.
Right.
We were just whiling our time out, in the evening, and then the question, we started asking ourselves the question, so, now that we are done with school, so what next? And you will not believe this, but each of us had that strong impression that God was, leading us to the ministry. I cannot say that I heard a voice, but I can say that there was an impression that I still, many, many years later, sense, feel. This to me is what stands out, among many other things that we can talk about, because this is what establishes, the whole concept of ministry as far as, my understanding of ministry is concerned. So if I had to look at just one, it would have to be that, because that was the basis and that was the beginning, and it is very vivid and very clear even now.
Growing up, did you plan on becoming a pastor?
No, it was never on my mind, even though my dad had that on his mind.
Okay.
But his thinking was not really, its basis was not theological.
Okay.
In the mind of my father, we had an elder brother who was studying medicine at the university.
Okay.
And according to my dad, he wasn't growing at the pace he was expected in terms of, height. And so Dad would say, well, this guy can do 7 years and you'll still be looking young.
Oh, yeah.
And each time he would look at me, Dad would say, even this one, he has, the same stature. So for you, we want you to be a priest when you grow up, because you'll be able to do 6 years and you'll still be looking quite young. So, from the standpoint of my dad, he felt that
you should
yeah,
go in that
and
direction.
I can tell you, Bright, that although my dad's thinking had no theological basis, but I do think that it also contributed. When God finally now spoke to me within the Adventist Church, I could look back and say, look, Dad wanted me to be a priest in the Adventist Church. I mean, in the Catholic Church.
Oh, you were born Catholic?
I was born Catholic.
Okay.
And so here I am now. God now wants me as if to fulfill the desire that my dad had. So, but, really within me there was nothing. It is simply a call of grace.
But how did you feel, Pastor, having lived what was impacted in your heart, and also your father's thoughts on you at a young age? Now you become a pastor in the mainstream with all these things that you've done over the years. How does that make you feel?
Just like I have said, although Dad's basis for my becoming a pastor,
your priesthood.
Yeah, priesthood had nothing. There was no theological basis to it. But I strongly believe that God was guiding him.
Indeed.
Because later on, like I said, when God spoke to me now, I could tell that, God was, he started, now let me tell you this,
Okay.
because I know my mom used to say, son, we know that you are a pastor and you've now become an Adventist, but let's tell you this. If we didn't introduce Christ to you, you would not even be the way you are today. So even that aspect, the Catholic side of my story, it was guided by God. Slowly but surely, God moving me from there into what he wanted me to be. So,
Well, I'm just seeing pictures of you. You could be surprised. That's Pastor Mwanza somewhere there.
oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so we were just, boys, and this was during our training at Solusi University many, many years ago, maybe around
So who is the other person with you?
The other person is Pardon Mwanza.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you people come a long way.
Yeah. Like I said, even the call to ministry came at the same time. That particular evening, outside St. Clement's Secondary School, as we were just, doing time and, just having a wonderful time, then the question of, so, what do we do after this? So we've had a great time together.
Right. We must give credit to your parents, really, because they laid the foundation for
Yes.
you. And we thank God that you did not depart from what they really wanted you to be. You still lived within. As we talk about your pastoral engagement in the Adventist Church, though it stems from the Catholic background,
Yes.
there is something that is not common among pastors. I will tell you this because we have a number of pastors that are blessed with the gift of singing or doing other things outside the pastoral work, who have thrown that particular talent or enablement in them to just pursue this pastoral calling alone. But you have not really discarded the music ministry in you. And so let's talk to you about, let's talk about your involvement in the music ministry within the Adventist Church. Can you share with us your passion for music and how it has influenced your ministry over the years?
Okay, so before I can speak about the genesis,
Okay.
let me quickly say that for me, I have looked at ministry from the standpoint that whatever it is God has given to you. Now, it may be that God gave 2 talents or 5. You will be answerable to all of those. Now, what has happened is that I have seen in quite a number of people, some of them pastors, who are, very, very good singers.
Yeah.
But, then they have dropped that,
Yeah.
But the truth is that as we all sit before the judgment seat of God, we will be asked to give an account by God, whatever it is that he gave. And so for me, I have looked at the things that I am able to do, such as singing, writing, and, quite a few other things. And I have said, I'm going to be faithful to all of them because God is going to demand, accountability. But how it started, the whole music ministry started when I was at Solusi University. And, I loved to sing early in the morning as I was taking my showers. And so a student, a friend of mine, one day came to me and said, George, you like singing and I like your voice and I would like you to join our quartet. I said, me singing in front of people?
You had never sang before
No,
in any group?
I'd never sang before. So, and
apart from congregational singing?
Apart from congregational singing.
Okay.
But he loved the voice and he said to me, we want you to join us. That is how I started singing in that quartet. And, then we had the Zambian trio. I also sang in, a bigger, larger group, a choir, and then in a male chorus. So, I sang in so many different groups while I was at Sulusi. And when I graduated, I felt I didn't need to throw that away because, like I said, you know, God would ask, I gave you that, and what did you do with it? And so it's that philosophy that has helped me to live with music all the way until now. Yeah.
And what should we expect in your retirement? in your retirement, more music?
You know, I was telling my wife, now that I have all this time before me, you know, I'm going to concentrate on things I've always wanted to do, like writing, you know, singing itself, and even learning, you know, one or two instruments. I know I can play the guitar and a little bit of, you know, piano, but, you know, really where you have experts, I can't even, you know, say that I know how to play these instruments. But I feel that music is something I can now take full time. I can go full time into, because I do have more time now.
You have time and you have the passion.
Yes,
so
I have
why
the
not?
passion.
Why
Yeah,
not?
exactly.
Why not pursue that?
Yeah.
Yesterday we did hear a number of singers. We will talk about yesterday's program later, but they have talked about your involvement in uplifting people's music. Some from you doubting them. I think we heard somebody say, well, he doubted me at first, but over time we became buddies and he contributed greatly to all this that I have become today and all that. But let's talk about music as a tool for evangelism. How do you think music can be used to spread the gospel and just also inspire believers?
Let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
Between a preacher and a singer, especially if a singer is serious, you are likely to have more followers as a singer, as a musician, than as a preacher.
Okay.
And this is the reason why when you look at people who are really passionate about music, such as, you know, Davis Mulaya, he has a lot of following.
Oh, yeah.
Because music, you can sing a song and sing again and again and again and again. But when it comes to sermons, if you repeat a sermon, you know, people will start thinking, what is wrong with this, you know, person? So when it comes to the aspect of evangelism, using the avenue of music, I can't think of you know, anything that, you know, that is more powerful. Every place I have gone to, especially in our country, each time I have been invited to go to speak, and I don't sing, people feel disappointed. Pastor, you came, and we thought you were going to sing as a song. And I said, no. When I came, I was asked just to preach. Yeah, but I have discovered that people are happier. They appreciate me more if I can also sing.
They appreciate music than the sermon.
Exactly. They appreciate music, you know, more than the sermon. In fact, when I lived in Zimbabwe, you know, because I started doing videos in Zimbabwe, and they played quite a lot of our work on the TV there in Zimbabwe. To the extent where people thought I was a musician. They didn't know that I was actually. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just, you know, like, you know, singing, you know, while you are showering. I can't really say I am. Okay. So, but the aspect that came out, as far as that audience was concerned, was music. They didn't know that I was actually a preacher. So, you know, even for you as a preacher, here is my advice to you.
Okay.
Don't use music, because music can get you more, you know, to the audiences than preaching itself.
Okay.
Yeah, if people know that there's going to be music as you do the preaching. In fact, we have even done this, you know, at Njanji during the Music Week of Prayer, where we have invited, you know, sometimes even non-Adventist, you know, singers. We have ended up actually attracting more crowds using the avenue of music. And so when people come, when they sing, then you give them a little bit of, the gospel. So for me, music really is, something of
A powerful tool.
a
that
powerful
can,
tool to actually
spread the
And
gospel.
by the way, this is the reason why I do not want to give up music. Yeah.
Well, we'll still see more of you as a singer, wondering whether preaching continues.
Yes, preaching continues. But like I said, I would like the reading of the Bible is from 2 points.
Okay.
Number one, for self-edification. And then secondly, if you are a minister, to also share the word of God with other people. But I think in my retirement, I would like to use the Bible more for self-edification.
Okay.
To know God to points I have never known him before. Because it's a big temptation for people like you to read the Bible purely from the angle of sharing it. And
That's
you
true.
forget that, the important thing is to read it in order that it affects you so that you become all that God wants you to be. And this is how I would like to use, the Bible. So the focus is going to be more
Personal edification.
personal edification. So that then I can concentrate now on things like, music and writing. Yeah.
Then I want to dig into your preaching ministry then. Now that it's all about personal edification, and you want music to be above everything that you have done the last 44 years.
Yes.
Let's talk about Pastor Mansa as a preacher, and also how far you have gone in your preaching ministry, but also your involvement into the administration of the church. And now we are looking at you as somebody who finally says, I've done my part, and let me go and concentrate on other things that I treasure also, like preaching. So let's begin. You as a preacher, what stands out for you as a preacher, not as a pastor, but also how far you have gone in your preaching ministry?
I think the starting point for me in terms of preaching is, that I spent quite a number of years, teaching pastors how to preach, homiletics, both at Rusango as well as at Solusi.
Right.
And so if you ask, most of the people that I have taught, this is the one thing they will remember me for. Out of the many things, I think most people will say, when, Mwansa taught homiletics, I've heard them say this. This is a confession, really. I'm just giving it as I have heard it from them, that, he was a very good homiletics, teacher. So now, what that has done, for me, is that each time I take a preaching assignment, I look at it from the perspective of a teacher. How do you handle the text? What about the mechanics themselves? So to be true to the text, and at the same time, the psychology. If you are going to be doing public speaking, what are the mechanics? So each time I am in the audience, as I listen to speakers, always, the teacher in me. I'm always not just listening to, perhaps how somebody is handling the text, but I'm also, looking at aspects of, mechanics. As what are the dynamics as you speak to audiences? What is it that influences people to listen, so that they can take what you are teaching or preaching? So for me as George Mwansa as a preacher, I could say that I look at myself more from the angle of somebody who has done more teaching, especially teaching pastors how to preach. And then the few times I have been in the ministry as a pastor, where preaching is also quite prominent. I have done a few preaching events, whether these are weeks of prayers or crusades, camp meetings, and so on and so forth. And I have been the biggest critique of myself.
Okay.
Yeah, especially coming from the angle of being a teacher myself, and many times as I have looked at my own preaching, I find myself always wishing I could speak better than I did last time.
You're not content.
No, I'm not content. There are very, very few sermons when I look at my own work where I can say, really here I applied myself well.
I want to remind you of something. It should be around 2014. Then you pastored Kablonga Mission District.
Okay.
And I was just a new person joining Woodland Central at that time. I underwent, it's personal,
Okay.
I underwent a heartbreak.
Okay.
And then you were preaching that particular Sabbath at Woodland Central, and it was as though you were talking to me. Say, if somebody has broken your heart, just don't mind, move on and all that. At that time, I actually meant that I was going to see you for advice and counseling. And then I heard it all on the pulpit, and I said, oh, this man is a wrong preacher, because what he is saying, like, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I have seen a number of people, Pastor Chiokoma also inclusive, who said, Pastor Mansa would tell you something that you don't want to hear.
Okay.
Because he believes it's a truth. He doesn't sugarcoat information. He will tell you as it is. If it's a no, it's going to be a no, a direct no, emphatic no, to say it's no. That personality that you have, that many live to appreciate over time, that, well, had it not been for Pastor Mansa to speak to me like that, maybe I wouldn't have appreciated life in this way, or I wouldn't have gone in this direction, but because Pastor Mansa is a straight person. Talk to us about you and that personality.
It's very, very interesting. It's people who think this is how I am. For me, it's just, a natural thing. I can't even describe myself as, the way you have put it. That, I don't know that this is how I am, but, maybe let's just say that this is how God, really created me.
Okay.
When I mean to say something, I feel that it must be said in a manner that, will be helpful. But, at the same time, I think I would appreciate, God giving me
a brutal approach to it.
No, not really a brutal approach.
Okay.
No. I really do not, start out as, wanting to be the way you have, described it. No. It is simply something that just comes out naturally. And I would appreciate
Which makes you.
Yeah, okay. But I would appreciate, God, somehow giving me the, how shall I describe it? The gentle approach to it, because I am of the view that you can actually reach out more, with truth, at the same time that is given in a way that you don't destroy people. So to be honest,
but the feedback is that you've not destroyed anyone. It looked as destruction very when it's been said, but over time, I read Pastor Chiokoma's story, for example, who said, Pastor Mansa said, go to where it's people that matter. It's not about the place.
Yes.
And to that, Pastor Chiokoma appreciates the fact that you told him it's not about the place, but it's about the people. Now, it sounded at that particular time, because this is a young guy that is coming from school, and they expect to be in some fancy districts and all that, but then they are taken to a remote district, so to say, and then over time, they realize that actually the counsel you gave, because you were picked as a mentor, obviously because of your teaching background, and as young preachers, we are doing that. I'll tell you that there are a number of young preachers that have actually confided in me and say, Pastor Mwansa is my mentor, even though they have not come out in the open. So that has really helped, and I don't think it is right for you to say, well, God should give you another approach.
And I'm just...
I am here.
Yeah.
I told you that I was nursing a heartbreak, and you
Yes.
told me, well, just let it go. Let me tell you this, Pastor. Let me tell you this, Pastor.
Yes.
That the next thing that would have happened probably was for me to read the newspaper and find a doctor who is who is promising me my lover will be back.
Yes.
But then I had the same and I said, well, let it go. It hurt at first, but over time I said, well, it's time to let it go. And here I am. You know my wife, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Okay? If I didn't listen to that sermon because we wanted a gentle pastor man, what would have been of me?
So maybe apart from, the personality thing, it's also the, something that comes out of the experience.
Okay.
As you grow older, you begin to understand life from a real perspective. That, life is like this. For example, if you go to the Bible, and the Bible was not written so that we could simply look at things and say, wow. It was written so that we would use it. For example, Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12, the Apostle Paul says, I have learned the secret of being content, whatever the circumstances, whether well-fed or hungry. And then in Romans 8:28, he says, all things work together for good. One of the things that I have embraced as a result of reading the Bible is the truth that every single chapter or episode we go through into life, there is God's footprint in it. Okay. So, if it is a broken heart, such as the one that you described, God has to allow it, and He does not allow it. Okay, the perspective He allows that to happen is that it's not a thing where you say, okay, Bright, I left, I went to visit, maybe other worlds, and, when I came back, I discovered that, something bad happened to you. No. God is always present, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah.
1 trillion years from now, God is already there.
Yes.
So every single thing that we go through in life, God's footprint is in it. And, through life, I have discovered that this is just how it is. So whether, for example, I have been sent to a remote place purely, because the leaders do not like me, God has to allow that. And, so if I understand it from the perspective that nothing happens to me without God actually saying, let it be this way. The Joseph story is a perfect, actually, example. How God leads Joseph through a series of negative events, and finally, Joseph is led to where God wanted him to be. So for me, the truth is that as I walk through whatever, wherever, I see myself, this weak hand of mine in the strong hand of God. He holds it, and according to Isaiah 41:10, he says, "Mwansa, fear not, for I am your God." So he will lead me to the expected end. So it really doesn't matter whether, these are dark situations, bad things, if God allows. So it's from that perspective, that biblical perspective, and also, through life, that I can offer something like that. That, really just chill. God is there. You don't have to worry about anything.
Oh, yeah. Your passion for ministry, Pastor Mwansa, is one that is enviable. And we are true witnesses here at Hope Channel, where for a long time you ran a program here, the George Mwansa Musical Show. Apart from that, I think, because I consulted and I was told it was from your personal resources, there is one event, it should be at a stadium You preached one Sabbath, and there were a number of singers that came. I can't just remember when exactly, but it should be around 2014 again. I was already here in Lusaka. Should be at a stadium. I don't know which stadium, but I watched that on the national broadcaster. And somebody said, well, he paid his own resources to have this Sabbath program. I didn't go to church that day. And I sat at my auntie's place where I was staying in Kanyama. And I tuned to ZNBC. There is Pastor Mansa preaching, whom I have actually seen from a distance, both on TV and other programs that the SDHH has been running over time while I was still in Livingston. That to me demonstrates that you are passionate about the gospel. And that's why I want us to talk about some of the lessons that you learned over time in ministry, but the advice also that you can give to the upcoming preachers, upcoming pastors, and these that are already in service that you are leaving behind. Let me start by asking this. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned throughout your ministry?
The first one is that God is real.
Amen.
You know, God is real. God answers prayer.
Amen.
You know, so many examples I could give where I stand simply on the promise of God, and you know, then God does it. You know, I could literally write a book on those. You know, making me believe that, you know, God is a personal Father. That is so real in my life to the point where it doesn't even matter, you know, the hardships that I may, you know, go through, you know, the illnesses and, you know, you name it. It is possible to misunderstand God, but the truth of the matter is that God is real. You know, just a quick example, okay. You know, something that just happened recently. I was at Injanji, and I was talking to the people. We were doing a project of, you know, paving the surroundings there. And at the end of my tenure, I look at the unfinished portion, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm leaving and this thing is not yet done. So what do we do? And, you know, somebody has said that, okay, for now we need to abandon this project, and maybe, you know, maybe in March we will come back to this. And I'm just alone there now looking at this, and I'm saying, God, we can't do this. We need to continue doing this until this project is finished. Because if we say we will only come back to it maybe a month or so from now, people will abandon the project. So right there, I pray to God, Lord, please give me the wisdom, give me the strength. Then on a Sabbath, I speak to the people. I say, people, I know I will be leaving you. But even as I leave you, I want this particular project to be completed. And as a way to just show how passionate I am, even though my resources are scarce, here is a 2,000 that I am giving, you know, and I hope, you know, other people can see the need for us to complete this. Well, a week, barely a week from there, after that particular prayer, God sends the president to our church, the Republican president to our church, and the minister. So you see, I contributed 2,000 myself. The minister, the provincial minister, yes, contributed 20,000.
Wow.
The president contributed 200,000. Mine was 2,000. Muliata, Honorable Muliata, 20,000.
That's 22.
And the president, 200,000.
222,000.
So as we speak, that particular project now has all the money that we needed. Now, this is God. I mean, we didn't invite the president.
No.
The president, as a matter of fact, when the guy who phoned me was talking about this particular visit, he says, you know, the president asked me, can you find a church where we can go to this coming Sabbath. And he called one of the guys at the union who couldn't pick the call. So that gentleman decided to call the president to tell him that we will be going to China. Then the president says, no. I think let's go to Njanji. Now the question is, who directed him? It must have been God who understood that, you know. So apart from
things, yeah.
Exactly, apart from coming to worship, God understood. And, you know, we've been praying, Lord, please help us to do a road here. The president came. We talked to him about the road, and he said he will ensure that that road that leads to the church is done. So, you know, God is real. I can talk about many things. This is important, Bright, for me to say this, because this is foundational. If you believe that God is just some, you know, somebody who is out there in space, some abstract force in space, you will not benefit. There has to come a time when God becomes so real to you that he is a personal father. Amen. So for me, this is actually quite foundational.
Right. Then it's always true that no matter how rosy your journey has always been, it had some breakdowns.
Yes.
In your 44 years of ministry, any breakdowns that you look at that taught you something over time?
The breakdowns are there.
Okay.
Obviously, in the system, sometimes we work with leaders that we feel, you know, don't like us. You know, leaders who are mean. But, you know, again, something that I have learned, which is also something I try to tell young people as they get into work, that when you talk about experience, it's not just the mechanics, understanding the job like you are Bright, how to do an interview and so on and so forth, how to do your camera, how to do editing. No, it's even learning how to work with difficult people. True. That is experience. So, you know, I have gone through quite a number, including, you know, the loss of, you know, my first wife. And of course, I mean, praise God, I'm now, you know, married again, and I am happy. But I'm just talking about the roadblocks along the way.
Yes.
And all of these things, I have looked at them, not where I am now, not really from a negative standpoint, because like I said, in the words of the Apostle Paul, I have learned the secret of being content whatever the circumstances. So all the things that we go through in life, God's footprint is there. Amen. So there is really no need to complain, you know, but it takes time really to come to this kind of a conclusion where if they send you to a place that you don't like, or the leaders appear to be bad people, and so on and so forth, you can say, no, God has allowed this. So they may appear to be roadblocks, things that I don't like, but all things work together for good to those who love the Lord.
Well, indeed. And then what do you think, or how do you think the church can better support retirees? You have retired, you have no experience. It's barely 2 weeks when you hand off your boots. But how do you think the church should support retirees and just honor those that have gone into out of service?
I cannot speak from experience. Yeah. Like you have said, you know, I just retired a few weeks ago.
You don't even know whether you've retired or not.
Exactly.
It still feels fresh.
But there are some things that I can tell that I think the church really needs to look into. As you grow older, the system begins to fail you. And I think that when it comes to medical bills, the church needs to be more generous. You know, because when the system begins to break down, you can't use the same policy you have been using when the system is like your system, where, you know, the system is, you know, really very strong. Yeah. As you grow older, we should not be using the same system that, you know, we have been applying, the same policy we have been applying to, you know, workers that are young, and, you know, to workers that are now much older. Because for them, eyes are going to be failing them. And, you know, just to give you, you know, how bad it can be, I had an operation in the right eye, and just to insert a lens there, we had to pay $20,000. And, then because, something couldn't, just get, right in the way they wanted it to be, they had to inject, some medication. We had to pay another 13,000. In fact, they said this, actually costs 26,000. Now, if you are going to, the application of our policy, when it comes to retirees, I think there's a need to really look at that to see that, people who are aging will require, more attention when it comes to medical, issues. And even the government itself, by the way, when you reach the age of 65, they have recognized that, it's free medical services once you get to 65, and because they know that at that point your resources and all these other things are down. And so for the church, I think what I can say is that they need to ensure that the medical policy there is one that favors
the retired and the aged.
But of course, other things that I've heard have to do with the fact that once you retire, you have completely forgotten. Now, so I haven't yet gotten to that point where I can
we will talk about that some other time. After maybe 10 years from now, then we'll come and probe and say, Pastor, tell us, how is it the other side?
Exactly.
But let's talk also to the young people that are starting out in ministry. What advice would you give to pastors, young pastors, church leaders alike, who are just starting out in their ministry?
The following things.
Okay.
Number one, and this is the most critical, you need to establish that what you are getting into was not just a figment of your own imagination. There are so many young people, pastors who are in the ministry, who perhaps, because somebody told them they are good preachers, even lay people can be good preachers because this is just a gift.
Indeed.
So you need to establish your calling. Because as you move into the future, as far as your ministry is concerned, you are going to face a lot of, hardships, roadblocks, and challenges. Every minister I know, including myself, there comes a time when you are so disappointed with some aspects of the work, or, sometimes with people, to the extent where you even want to quit. Now, if it wasn't clear who brought you into the system, you will quit. So that is the most important thing that young ministers need to know in this. Did I just bring myself like Judas did, or it was actually a calling of God? Number two, at the time I started working in the church, things were not as they are right now. There were a lot of sacrifices when it came to accommodation, when it came to the salary itself. It was not the kind of a thing where, like right now, young ministers can even, after just working for a few years, they drive and, they can even live in, good houses. So many young people, young pastors, could even be tempted to think ministry can be about driving, a beautiful car, living in a good house, wearing trendy suits and so on and so forth. It has nothing to do with any of those. This is actually, that thing that you talked about where I told Isaac Chiokoma that it's really about the people. So now, if for you it's glamour to drive a car, to live in a good house, and so on and so forth, you will be disappointed if you are sent to a place you never expected. So when we talk about ministry, there has got to be that basic understanding that ministry is not a showing off thing. It's not about driving, a Porsche car or living in a good house and all of these things. Ministry is real. It is sacrifice. It is hard work. So that is a thing I would have to say to, the second thing I would have, advice I would give to young ministers. The third thing I would say to young ministers is, the importance of marrying the right people. Because in the ministry, if you mess yourself by marrying the wrong person, you will not be able to complete your full course. I thank God that I have completed my full course, and I can tell you, part of the reason why this has happened is that, you know, the two people I have lived with, the first woman and then this other woman, they have all been people that have not led me into temptations of quitting the ministry, and because they are demanding for this and so on and so forth. So you need to align yourself. You need to marry somebody who is going to be the right person. Amen. You must, of course, be the right person yourself, but it is important that you get the right person. Otherwise, you will move out. Yeah.
All right. Advice coming from Pastor George Mwansa to the young people that are setting out in ministry, and I pray that you are picking on this one. You are free to send your questions, if at all you have any, or contribution to this program on 0976151517, or you can slot your comment on our Facebook stream, and we'll be able to check on them just before we end. We're not far from ending, because now we are gravitating towards the event for yesterday. I thought I should remind you that Pastor Mwansa was given, very uncomfortable to say, especially that it has always been used to people that are alert, a send-off. I don't know. It just feels like it's not the right word to use. But let's talk about that yesterday. How did it feel to be honored by the singers yesterday? And what did the music program mean to you as a retired man?
You know, if I can pick, you know, from my life's history, one of the most significant things to have ever happened to me is what happened yesterday. I mean, you know, these events have always been done, and each time they are done, when they say, okay, we are celebrating the life of so and so, you're thinking of, you know, people, you know, that the person could be in a coffin, a casket, all, you know, down in the grave. Always, without exception, this is how. But for the first time, I mean, you are there to hear for yourself. I mean, I became emotional at some point to think, God, how can you honor me this way? That I would be present to hear some of the good things that, you know,
tributes.
The tributes, tributes, you know, that ordinarily are given when people can't really,
can't hear anything.
Anything. But here I am, you know, to be able to hear for myself, you know, how much I have meant to these people. I can tell you, this is one of the most significant things even in heaven, if I had to highlight things I felt, you know, God really, what a way to, it is as if, you know, God is putting a stamp of approval that, you know, my son, you have done well. And, you know, how can I make you understand, you know, that you have really done well? Of course, I mean, in the context of grace, you know, really before God, I can't say I have done, you know, so well. But it meant everything to me, and also to know that, you know, even just the process, I didn't know. I had no idea.
That's what I wanted to ask. I'll ask the director to also flash back the pictures when you entered the church.
Yes.
It showed that you didn't know that this was coming.
So now you see, let me talk about it, you know, give you a background. So my wife is now telling me about 3 weeks ago that, okay, there is this event we have been invited to, and, you know, and I'm saying, you know, I don't think I will be there myself, because around that time I'll be. Why did
you even think that way? Because you have attended a number of concerts.
No, my wife didn't even put it as a concert.
Okay,
no.
okay.
She was
just a meeting.
Yeah, she was so secretive about it. It didn't come out as a concert. It was just, okay, We've been invited, General Solochi is...
this is the time when you were coming, Pastor. Sorry
Okay.
to interrupt with you.
Okay.
A stand ovation,
Yeah.
a round of applause, and
Yeah.
there you are. Your wife also, ushered by a very lovely trained police officer there in the name of Mrs. Mwinde,
Yeah.
Ida. And I saw you sit down and you look so shocked that part. I don't even know why they switched early, but as though you were just about to shed tears.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe this. As I was saying, 3 weeks ago, my wife is talking about this event, and I'm asking myself, this event ordinarily, whoever is organizing it, how I know this, what normally would have happened is that I would have also been, informed, not just my wife. So my wife is telling, oh, there's this thing. And
especially you as a pastor.
Yeah. Then she says, this event is so important. I would like to even buy a dress. I'm saying, you people are so wasteful. Christianity is not about showing off. You have so many dresses. Every single thing, you must buy a dress or you must make, one. And, my wife was not even arguing.
Yeah. She's a humble woman.
Then comes this day. So when we are just about to start off, it begins to pour.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to my wife, I like this, because what this means is that we will not attend that event because it's raining.
It's raining.
And then very briefly, it stops. So my wife says, no, let's jump in the car and, go, because this is important. So we begin to go. We are talking. When we arrive at the church, my wife calls somebody, says, we are here. And I can't understand. I mean, we're just ordinary people who are coming to this event, and why don't we just walk into the church? He says, no, there are people who will show us where to sit.
Oh, yeah.
So I see this young man, your friend,
Sanford.
and my friend, Sanford and his wife, they come over. I'm expecting church people. Because really...
Not the young ones.
So what is the meaning of this? And then as they walk us into the church, then Paddy says, here is the man we have been waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
There's, everybody is standing and, that applause. And I am dumbfounded. I can't understand this. What is the meaning of this? Then as I look to the front section of the church, I see my picture. And,
44 years.
44 years of an
interrupted service.
Then, I couldn't just contain myself. Fortunately, I had my glasses on. But, really...
so that we couldn't see your tears.
Yeah. But really, I am very, very grateful to God that, such a thing had to be organized. And, the beautiful thing about this is that, there's no church politics to it. It's just, guys who mean well, and they say, okay, once you have been our guy, and so as, we want to celebrate your exit. And
as musicians.
I was very happy, because in the past, this has only happened when people have died.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, this is the way it should be done.
The posters of the program were all over.
Yes.
You didn't see any that would indicate?
No, you see.
Or did you even express interest about that
at our church, how it came was our singers, the Victory Vocals. They were going to be participating in a program that was going to be hosted at China. It was just a music, just a music program. And I looked at the artists. I said, well, these people are lucky. They will enjoy themselves. But those people, those crooked people knew, what was going to be happening.
Everyone was aware.
Everyone was aware.
Except you.
Except me. My wife was aware.
You were betrayed.
Yes. But it was a beautiful surprise. I can't ask for anything better than this.
But let's talk about the program itself, though.
I loved the music.
You loved the music.
The music, it is as, like I read on one comment, I don't know whether this was on the Hope page, where somebody was saying, we have attended paid for concerts, but this particular one I could have paid even a 5,000. It was so beautiful. So the people came, and the way they packaged the music was so good. Everybody gave their best. But I told Sanford, you will be killed for this, because I expected the golden vocals to sing that Jerusalem song.
Jerusalem song.
He didn't sing that song. Shame on you guys. I mean, everybody
Well,
expected.
you made the Anglian singers to sing at least one of the songs you wanted them, expected them to sing and all that. But when we look at that entire event, the lineup itself, the golden vocals, the victory vocals, who actually said you revived the group when you went to Njanji, because they are resident at Njanji Church. And then we had the Aglen, legendary Aglen singers. Then the Jasper C, whom you pastored at Brentwood not too long ago. And then Davis Mlaya himself, his testimony, where you said, for now, let's use those we know. And then all the way from Monza in Southern Province, Lazarus Agalebola. Talk about that lineup.
It was a star-studded lineup. And I think the organizers, knowing my mind, even this thing that you are talking about, the Davis Mlaya, it was more from the perspective of, quality things. I insist on quality. So on that particular Sabbath, I felt that among the people that we have here, we can't ask anybody other than, especially people, I was once a pastor at Livala. I never knew Mulaya wasn't there. So who is this new guy? So I said, okay, in order not to disappoint him, let the guy sing, he would do the closing song.
All right.
Yeah, and that is exactly what he did. So after singing, I saw that he was a quality singer. So when you look at the people that came, I mean, it was...
and everyone had a very personal interaction with you over the years.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you have added any other group apart from the five?
They're quite...
or the
first of all,
Divine Trumpets also.
In terms of adding, there are quite a number.
Okay.
There are some of whom even felt, why were we left out? For example, I know Tisha would have loved to be there since we once even sang together. But I'm not the one who organized the singers, and I think there had to be, you couldn't bring everyone on board. So I think what Sanford was thinking, was okay. The guys he has related with, but we must also think about, we can't have too many, and then in the end we just allow people to sing a song. I don't think it will be a good program. But there are many more. You could extend to many.
Maybe I have a suggestion, Pastor. In your name, how about we organize a now formal, without hiding anything from you, musical program, be it a Sabbath worship program, where people can, you select yourself to say this group should come, and you specify the kind of songs you'd want them to sing to a retired man.
That would be great. Because you see, I also saw a comment there on your page, homepage, that you see, this thing was a beautiful thing, but it was poorly advertised. But I know he was speaking from a point of ignorance. He didn't know that you had to hide the
details.
Yeah, the details. But I think that would be a brilliant, idea to bring all these people and have, just we chill together as musicians and just have a wonderful time.
Indeed.
As a matter of fact, when I was coming from our home in Shimabala, where we'll be settling, I was telling my wife that, we need to create some space, because once in a while we will be inviting people for, singing moments where we can just...
So there is a lot coming.
Yeah, there's a lot
there
coming.
is a lot coming. Pastor, unfortunately, time cannot allow us to continue with this discussion, but I must mention here that you deserved what the singers organized.
Thank you.
I know, as an individual that a lot can be said about that event in the positive, but also the negatives are expected
Yes.
because it's not done to every person that retires.
Yeah, exactly.
But now that it was done for you from the music fraternity, there are other pastors that are closely related and connected, say, to personal ministries. They bring in Dorcas, Amo, and all these other societies within the church.
Yeah.
And then there are others that are also, connected to musicians.
Yes.
There are others that are connected to evangelism. That's where
Yeah.
the passion is. There are all these diverse
Yeah,
fields. For example, we are in communication here, and there are other pastors that are passionate about communications.
Yes.
By the way, you served as a Voice of Prophecy speaker, which also tells us that we should have done something. Yeah, but that's just besides the point. So when we look at all that, Pastor, we want to realize that there is a lot that people can do outside the official and formal send-off that the church would do, but to celebrate somebody that is your guy. You chill with your guy because that's your language. So maybe you'd want to speak to the organizers and outside the organizers of your event yesterday, who can also organize something for the persons that are closer to them in ministry.
Yeah, so here's how I would actually put it if I were to speak to the organizers. Now, both Sanford as well as the major
the
General
Lieutenant
Solochi,
General,
the
Lieutenant
two
General.
key people who organize the event, they are music lovers, both of them. And so from the angle of music, they felt that it was important that they celebrate, my life being a part of the music fraternity in this country. And, so here then is a word of encouragement, or maybe something that, I could urge other people in other areas of interest, such as the ones you have highlighted: evangelism, public evangelism, personal ministries, Dorcas, Amo, and so on and so forth. The lay people in those particular areas can emulate the example of, General Soloche and Sanford and be able to do a thing like this. Because really, what happened yesterday was so important, at least at a personal level. And this is the way we should be doing things. Can you imagine, a few weeks ago, a secular musician by the name of Dandy Crazy, after he died, people organized an event, and where there was a lot of singing. But, when you sing because, somebody has died, you can't really express your full emotion as far as happiness is concerned. But like what happened yesterday, I was alive, I was there, so everybody was happy. And this is the way it should be. So these other people in these other areas should emulate the example of the two people who organized their friends, and at least we as musicians were able to do what we can now say other departments should be able to do for these other people. It could be pastors, it could be all these other people they feel have made a mark, an impact positively in society. We should be able to be doing this.
Well, Pastor, we end here for today, but just in case you have the last words to make.
The last words to make is that I have appreciated, first of all, the invitation to speak, and which is also just one way to say goodbye to the people. Quite a number of people who didn't know that I have retired through your platform are able to now see that truly, the rumors they have been hearing are true. I have retired. So I'd like to, just thank you for inviting me. And I would also like to just thank the viewers for taking the time to watch this particular telecast. As we move into the future, it's always important, especially as God's people, to understand the point that I made earlier, that whatever happens, God is in it.
Amen.
And if it is in it, we must be happy.
Amen.
Because all things work together for good to those who love the Lord.
Amen.
Yeah.
Pastor, thank you so much. I hope now you have more time to bring back on Hope Channel the GM show.
Or the George Mansa music show.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I was getting really tired, and because I was almost doing everything alone, you know, filming, editing, and, you know, traveling up and down. You know, but, you know, maybe now I do have a bit of time, and we can, because what, you know, the idea was really to just, you know, to just promote Zambian music.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So. No, Pastor, thank you so much, and we wish you well as you enjoy your retirement. They say retired but not tired.
Exactly.
And for you, we don't need to ask. We can see that you're not tired yet. And so there should be more of your input, both in the music fraternity, but also in the general work of the church, because we still need your services.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Well, we end Hope Live here. I have been chatting with Pastor George Mwansa, who ended his traversing of the church leadership and roles, pastoral roles, at Njanji Seventh-day Adventist Church with an iconic visit of the President of the Republic of Zambia, to which he is excited, and he says it's only God's hand that led the President in that direction. And like we reported after that event, like as though it was planned, that event culminated Pastor George Mwansa's stay as a pastor at Njanji, but also as a pastor in service in the Adventist Church under Woodlands Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But he's been to many places, not only in Woodlands Conference, but around the world. He's been all over, and there are many people that appreciate what he has done. Thank you so much for your time. Bright Sinkozi, on behalf of Pastor George Mwansa, my guest, and the technical team and transmission studio team, from all of us, let's meet on Wednesday for yet another excited episode of Hope Live. Till then, God bless, and keep watching.
African sound, beautiful African sound.
Thank you so much.
For having me.
More sound, give us sound. Zimbabwe, up. Tiende kudenga, tinowona mawanga mumawoko wake. Tiende kudenga, tinowona mawanga mumawoko wake. Vanokumbira, vanopiwa, vanotaka, vanowana, vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wao. Vanokumbira, vanopiwa, vanotaka, vanowana, vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wao. Wasara kudenga, tinowona mawanga mumawoko wake. Wasara kudenga, tinowona mawanga mumawoko wake. Vanokumbira, vanopiwa, vanotaka, vanowana, vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wao. Vanokumbira, vanopiwa, vanotaka, vanowana, vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wao. Pastor Sarah, where are you? We went this song together when we came to Solusi. Please sing. Tiende kudenga, tinowona kumbira vanopiwa vanotsvaka vanowana vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wavo. Vanokumbira vanopiwa vanotsvaka vanowana vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wavo. Wasara, wasara, wasara kudenga tinoona mawanga mumaoko wake. Wasara, wasara iwe, wasara kudenga tinoona mawanga mumaoko wake. Vanokumbira vanopiwa vanotsvaka vanowana vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wavo. Vanokumbira vanopiwa vanotsvaka vanowana vachitenda kuti Jesu ndiye Ishe wavo.
Hallelujah.